Hi, my name's Jo Hadley. This is my podcast, Being a Human Lighthouse. I'm a somatic therapist and counselor, and I was a physiotherapist for many years. I am definitely a believer and a knower that we are more than just the physical. Everything that occurs to us is a component of our emotional, our mental, our physical, and our spiritual bodies. I assist people to safely journey within to get to know themselves and to see their own shadows or unconscious parts that are often unconsciously sabotaging their lives. Many people don't realize it's these unconscious beliefs that we have about ourselves that often are creating a lot of the conditions and events that happen in our life. And if it's not the events that it's actually creating, it will be our perception of the events that are occurring. This can be a little bit confusing to understand, especially if you're starting out. But the further you go along this path, the more obvious it becomes. The best people who help others to heal themselves, because we can only ever heal ourselves, no one actually ever heals us. They can be catalysts that help us lift the energy levels up so a person can see themselves more clearly and know what changes to make. But no one else can ever do that for you. And it plays out even in the physical body, because when it comes to things like cuts, your cut has to heal itself. A wound has to heal itself from within you. You can put something on it to assist it, but it has to come from within. If you fracture a bone, even if you have surgery or a doctor or physiotherapist puts a cast on that fracture, you still have to heal. It has to come from within. It's just the practitioner or the healer is just someone who assists you to get into the best possible position to enable your own self-healing process to occur. And this can happen on the other levels as well, with the mental, emotional, and spiritual aspects of ourselves. The best people who are catalysts for others' healing, I like to include myself in this, are always people who have taken the journey within and gone into the depths of their own being and consciously attempted to meet their own shadow, meet their own unconscious aspects, and learn to face them and be willing to accept them and integrate them into our lives. Often these shadow parts, the unconscious aspects of ourselves, all develop often in childhood. They can come from ancestral patterns as well. They often are developed as a coping strategy. Something happens that we cannot integrate this appropriately at the time. We didn't have the tools or the safety or the people around us who could help us. So we just stuffed it inside and created beliefs and perceptions around it. And this energy that we hold inside that is desperately walled off and suppressed and repressed takes up a lot of energy. And this can result in a lot of the chronic illnesses. There's more and more research showing, especially chronic fatigue, a lot of autoimmune issues, many different chronic conditions can have this underlying element of energy that is taking energy away from the immune system and other systems in the body that assist with healing and block that, or at least slow it down. So I've been on my own journey and going within for many years. It's gotten much deeper and much more intense over the last 6 years. And especially in the past year or so, when I've definitely got closer and deeper and asked to truly develop the ability to know my own soul, to live from Christ consciousness. And from the work I've read is when you ask these questions, life will throw you into these crises. to bring up all these unconscious shadow elements. And indeed, that has been my case, because I truly do feel like, since I've asked this question and have been pondering these aspects, even though for years I've learned loads of different tools and skills which I've applied, including meditation, including being able to sit with my sensations and transmute them, Ho'oponopono, and many other tools, and even exercise and diet. Even though I've been using all these tools, it's like, as I've asked myself to actually know my own soul, to live completely from that part of myself, definitely been getting what I asked for, because even though I've let go of a lot of layers, some of the deep, dark stuff that I possibly couldn't get there just from without some of the new tools and inquiries that I've now learned in the last couple of years. And definitely, having asked this question, definitely have been plunged into this dark night of the soul, where I am confronting a lot of the dark unconscious energies and beliefs that had remained blocked off and unable to be really addressed. This is deeply stressful at times and creates a lot of apprehension and fear within me. But it's also caused me to really know that I want to know who I am, my own inner light. I want to know my soul and live from that. And it's interesting, I've been using all my tools and using it with much self-compassion and bringing light to this area. And even though I've been going through this dark night of the soul, it's quite interesting, because there's been moments of peace, moments of contentment, moments of joy, despite the pain and the uncertainty which a lot of my life has at the moment. I find myself wanting to be more of a light and compassionate and loving for others, even if my life is, in some areas, seems like it's been dumped into the toilet. I find it fun that the local cafes in the area that I'm currently staying in, it's interesting, because compared to the other area I was staying in recently, where everyone was so friendly and kind, they've been quite, rude might be. No, not able to be very warm, I would probably describe it as. So I go in consciously and just try and create as much love in my heart as I can, and smile and ask them how they are, and actually wait for the answer, not just say it as just a saying that doesn't want an answer. I actually look at them and ask, how are you doing today? And smile and just try and generate as much love and compassion as I can. And I've actually watched the staff members become nicer and friendlier and smile. Still not quite as friendly as my last cafe, the last place I lived, but definitely much improved in 2 different cafes, which is amazing. And I even think the coffee that I'm getting is actually tasting better in the first cafe that I go to the most. So I've been consciously trying to be compassionate and loving to others, even when I feel my life is sometimes really in the toilet. Now, while I'm addressing this dark night of the soul and this shadow, my shadow self, and the unconscious patterns that I still have that are driving me, and it's causing me to go within. And it's interesting, the situation I've been in lately is definitely bringing up some issues that I thought I'd heal many years ago. So this is what happens. You heal the superficial layers, and then the deeper, when you get the tools and the ability to cope with the deeper layers, you are then given the situations in life to then address them. So yeah, I've come across some of these situations, and just last night I found this anger and rage within. I could feel it, this rage and irritation about being indecisive. And I didn't take it out on anyone. I just could feel it within me. And I noticed it and thought, wow, there's something I haven't felt for a very long time. as these sensations have now passed, I look back and go, well, I choose to be grateful that they came up because it shows me that they're not 100% healed. That, wow, this rage and irritation at being indecisive is still there if something triggers it. So I've done a lot of sitting with these feelings today and knowing that when we have these patterns, when we have these reactions, something in our past has taught us that this is a safety strategy, a coping strategy. So I thought, wow, by feeling rage and irritation, if that's a coping strategy, what is underneath it? What is it? What is it protecting me from? What happens if I'm indecisive? And how long has it been since I've experienced this, or when did it all begin? And my answers come up with, wow, it was covering up the fact that I had this underlying belief that I was going to do something wrong and something would badly go wrong if I made a mistake and it'd be all my fault. And I thought to myself, well, if it's all my fault, what does that mean about me? And it come up with, there's something wrong with you. You're unlovable. And then I sat with those feelings that come up. And then I tried to imagine, how long have I felt this? And I knew in my 20s this used to come up a lot. I could feel the teens, but I couldn't feel when it all began. It just felt like it's always been there. There was just this vagueness about it. And I got this vision of before I was born, of my mother. Like, she had a lot of depression. She was alone and isolated in a small town in Australia. My father was, I can only imagine, largely unsupportive and often absent. And he had some struggles with alcohol. So I just felt this indecision of this, being in the womb and feeling this indecision of my mother, of she desperately wanted a child, but was terrified and overwhelmed, terrified that she was going to be terrible at this. Then I had this sensation of being in the womb and having this conflict about wanting to be born, but then wanting to stay there because she wasn't ready. And in the end, they had to come and get me from cesarean. And from this image, I felt, wow, that was just such a traumatic, rough way of being brought into the world while I was in the midst of this overwhelm and indecision about being born, because I could sense my mother's fear and overwhelm and the conflict between the desire to have the baby, but the terror that she wouldn't be adequate. So I sat with these feelings today and thought, wow, and just followed them through about, wow, if a baby, felt that, what would happen? Like, how would they feel? And it's interesting. I've had a nice little controlling pattern my whole life of always needing to know what's going on, keep everyone happy. I've always been quite organized. And it started from such an early age. This pattern also, I noticed, had an ancestral element to it, because I had the same pattern as my mother, this indecision, the fear, the backwards and forwards, and the anger that probably came from the rough birth and having a mother who had been under anesthetic and then was depressed and not able to really connect with me and bond with me appropriately. Things that we know now, but back then, no idea. Even today, a lot of the medical staff and this knowledge isn't widely known. But with all the trauma work that's going on and research going on in developmental issues in children, it's becoming much widely understood. So I'm applying these things in hindsight, which is a lot of the treatment. We have to learn to reparent ourselves. This is not a blame of parents, because when I sat with this sensation of backwards and forwards, overwhelm, I actually then pictured my mother's mother. And I felt it even went back to her. And I sat with these feelings that were happening in my body, because all I can do is deal with what's happening now, and just notice those sensations and sat with them and just felt the unpleasantness and just allowed that unpleasantness to be there. I was safe. I was sitting down. I'd done some meditation and I'd done some other healing work that really got me connected to my higher self already. I'd already nurtured myself and was giving myself love and support. I felt bad and a bit ashamed that the feelings of rage that I'd had, this shadow part of me that I saw. Because again, when we often suppress these shadow parts because they do create shame in us. We want to pretend they aren't there. So I just allowed myself to acknowledge that. There were sensations in my body, and I acknowledged them, allowed them to be there. I may have been a little bit testy yesterday, but I definitely was not expressing it to anyone else or hurting anyone else. But I was very curious and felt bad about those intense feelings of rage that I had inside. So hopefully, by going back and sitting with this and having some compassion for that part of me that developed this out of the fear that there was something wrong with me and that I was unlovable because I possibly passed on epigenetically from my mother and then my grandmother. I have compassion for that part of myself that had that rage. And so I just visualize myself being held by my adult self, that little tiny part of me, the baby yet to be born. I held her within me. And then I visualize my higher self wrapping itself around me with its energy of unconditional love and healing. And then, because I even felt I needed more than that, I just imagined God or source or spirit wrapping itself around me in unconditional love. So spirit was holding me, my higher power was holding me, the adult me of today was holding this little unborn Joe that had also picked up these energies from my mother and grandmother and just sat and allowed them to be seen and loved and witnessed. And hopefully that has allowed some of this to be transmuted, because a lot of healing is just about witnessing and allowing these darker aspects of ourselves that we often want to keep hidden or pretend aren't there. We acknowledge them and see them. And in the witnessing, we could allow it to process. So I have much compassion for myself. I have much compassion for my mother. I have compassion for my grandmother. I know my grandmother was a lady who migrated in the 1920s to Australia. So she would have had to come by ship. I think she came alone. I thought, what kind of woman goes to a faraway country and ends up working in a bar, in a pub, in a very small country town? Because that's what my grandmother did. I wonder what wounds or things had happened to her to have her do that. It's very courageous, but also from what I know is there's possibly a lot of internal conflict that would have driven that flight to another country, the desire to be somewhere so isolated. A small town pub in Australia is pretty tough for people to work at today, let alone in the 1920s. I'm sure they're much better today. I know they're much better today, but still, it'd still be a tough job today, is what I probably am trying to say. But back then, being female and isolated in a tiny town, transport wasn't the same. There's no internet, there was no phones. That would have been tough. So I often wonder what sort of person would make a journey like that. I may never know, but I have compassion that perhaps there was a lot of inner pain and possibly unresolved traumas within her that drove her. Or perhaps she was just a very courageous person wanting to do something completely different and get away from the constraints of the societies that she would have had. Who knows? Anyway, I will finish off today's podcast with my meditation. If you'd like to see if this helps heal or contribute to your own healing, and it does that by, if you notice the level of agitation, irritation, crankiness, just anxiety, what levels you're at now. And if there is a healing or a transformative change, you often will feel lighter, and those intensity of those unpleasant sensations will often be much less. That indicates that some transmutation, some integration has helped, and we've accessed the healing capabilities that are inherent within us. We all have this innate ability for wholeness, for healing. And while we don't know how to consciously access it, we can allow our body to get into that state and allow then the grace and other mysterious elements that will contribute to that to work. So I encourage you to stay present and focused and in the moment, because that's how healing happens. It's also not going to work and can also be dangerous if people are doing two things at once, because sometimes these meditations can create an altered state of consciousness. Not in everyone, but sometimes they can. And then that can be dangerous if you're driving or doing something else. Also, healing, if we're doing anything, we require presence to be in the moment, not doing multiple things at once. So I invite you to just take a seat or lie down and just close your eyes if that's comfortable. You can place your hand on your heart if you like, and then start to take some low, slow breaths in and out through the heart center. And as you're breathing in, just imagine you're filling up your body with oxygen, with chi, with all the quantum energy and information and healing energies that you require and need for your individual situation. As you breathe out, imagine you're breathing out all the toxins and programming and faulty beliefs you no longer need. Just take 3 low, slow breaths, filling up with all this light and information and love, and breathing out and letting go of everything you no longer need or supports you. Then just notice the chair you're sitting in. Notice the clothes that are touching your skin. Become aware of what your hands are feeling, if anything. Feel your feet on the floor. Feel your feet connecting and being grounded to the earth. And just feel how you're supported by the chair. Become aware of how the physical world supports us in every way. And just imagine there's a cord from the top of your head going to the center of the universe. So you're plugging into all that is the universe and all the knowledge and light and love. So now you're connected above to the universe and to the earth below. And as you're breathing in and out, you're breathing in and out, not the invisible, but all that is and part of this universe filled with information, love, light, healing energies, all that you need. Just notice any sensations that are occurring in any area of your body. You can do a brief body scan if you like. Just notice if they're pleasant, unpleasant, or even just neutral sensations. Just notice them. Be curious. You're sitting down or lying down and you're safe. They're just sensations from your body communicating with you. So just allow yourself to be curious and just listen and notice. If your body wants you to move, you can move, but just do so by listening to your body and not from wanting to change it or stop it. If any sensation becomes too overwhelming and unsettling, open your eyes, focus on your feet on the floor or the sounds you can hear. Sometimes when we allow ourselves to be quiet, some of the old unprocessed energy can come up. That can be good as long as we can stay non-judgmental and curious. If it becomes overwhelming, it can then tip us into a dysregulated stress state, which is not good. So just open your eyes, feel your feet on the floor, tune into your five senses, and just know you are safe in a chair or a bed that you're lying on. If you can stay, be curious. Just be curious about any sensations. You're not trying to change them. If you feel called to, you can breathe into them. You can focus your breath into sensations of unpleasantness. I'm not doing this to change it, but just to give some focused awareness there. You may notice as you are aware of any sensations that they may change. They may not. Sometimes they go, sometimes they get bigger, sometimes nothing happens at all. It's individual and varied, and all is okay. Now, I invite you to again place your hand on your heart and take 3 low, slow breaths in and out through the heart area, filling up every cell in your body with oxygen, with chi, with the quantum energy that is all around us. Just fill up your body and let go of anything you no longer need on the breath out. And this time, I just want you to visualize in your mind's eye what it would look like and what it would feel like in your body if you're living the life of your dreams, if you could be limitless, if you could live without fear, if you could be who you wish you could be. What would your life feel like? What would it feel like in your body if you could live where you just long to live, be with the people that you can be the most conscious and inspired by and creative with? What sort of work would you do? Would you work? Who would you be if you could be limitless and live the life of your dreams? The person you're meant to be if all your programs and coping strategies dissolved. Who would you be if that golden child within could be seen and could live life through its eyes? free of coping strategies and trauma patterns and faulty programming? How much love would you feel? How much joy, peace, abundance, freedom? What would it feel like to be the golden version of you, free from all limitations, free from all restrictions? Really feel what that would feel in your body. Now, as we come to the end of this meditation, just invite you to just bring your awareness back to your body that's in the chair or on the bed. Just notice your breath. Notice how the chair's supporting you. You can wiggle your toes and fingers if you like. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes if they were closed. And I just invite you just to notice the tension in your body. Do you feel any lighter? Do you feel any different? Has anything come up? If anything has changed, you can always drop me a line in the chat or in the comment section. I'd be always happy to hear it, to see if this has changed anything or shifted anything. And again, for another week, I will be back again next week. Much love and compassion to you all. Bye.